Hey, how's it going, YouTube? I'm back in the video, and today I'm going to be talking about why the Houston Rockets will forever regret the Russell Westbrook trade, and I'm just beginning to reasons why I don't think they're going to like this Russell Westbrook trade at all, and you're already seeing reasons for it, as they had an extremely disappointing playoff season, losing in the second round, almost the first round, to the team they traded their other star to, and got another one for it. That would have been really bad. It just was a terrible playoff season for the trade that they made, and all the stuff that happened through the offseason. So yeah, I'm getting how this is going to absolutely blow up in Houston's face, and they're going to regret this trade for a very long time. So if you do like the video at any point, hit the like button and subscribe button. I mean the absolute world to me. And without further ado, without rambling on too much, just get right into this video. My first reason to why they're going to regret this trade is that, to win a championship, let's be honest, you need extreme consistency. You need to be consistently good on defense and consistently good on offense and have consistent coaching to win a NBA championship. That's just what you need. And well, Russell Westbrook just so happens to be the complete opposite of the word consistency. Whatever the opposite of consistency is, that is what Russell Westbrook is. Like, there is legitimately some games where you look at him and you're like, oh, he is better than like LeBron James. He's the best player in the NBA, by far the best point guard, future Hall of Famer for sure. And then there's other games where he just looks like a more athletic Cameron Payne. So you really never know what side of the spectrum you're going to get Russell Westbrook on. Is he going to be the best point guard in the league, Russell Westbrook, or is he going to be the Cameron Payne, Russell Westbrook? So there's just a huge difference, and you never know what you are going to get. So with those terrible inconsistencies, it makes it very hard to win a NBA championship with someone like Russell Westbrook being your best or second best player. And when you're relying on him as much, it makes it very hard to win games. And maybe not win games, but win playoff series when you really have to rely on your stars to get you through the playoffs. And you can see these inconsistencies in even just this year's playoffs. As he scored less than 18 points, the same amount that he scored over 20 points. He scored 10 points or less 3 times this playoffs, but he also scored 24 points or more 3 times. So when you see that, the inconsistencies when it even comes to scoring is ridiculous. Like, how can you score 10 or less the same amount that you can score 24 or more? Which is that is just a absolute crazy number, and 2 of those times were 30+ point games, which is absolutely ridiculous for Russell Westbrook. How can you go from averaging, not even averaging, how can you go from scoring 24 to 30 points to scoring less than 10 points? That is absolutely ridiculous, and you cannot be that inconsistent and try to win playoff series at the same time. And then even look at his shooting percentage wise. He had 3 games where he shot 0% from the 3, but he also had 2 games where he shot at least 50% from the 3. So no, you just don't know what you're going to get with Russell Westbrook. Are you going to get the Russell Westbrook that's driving, doing everything his team needs to do, playing defense, getting rebounds, passing the ball, scoring, or are you going to get the one that looks like he can't do anything and shouldn't even be on an NBA court during a playoff series? You just don't know what you're going to get, and with that type of inconsistency, it almost makes it impossible to make a deep playoff run. That's why he's only had a few in his career, and that was when you have debatably the best player in the NBA in Kevin Durant as your teammate, and 6th man of the year, James Harden, who is now an MVP. So, when you see that, and you realize he hasn't made a deep playoff run in a very long time, I find it very hard to believe that any team anymore, without an extremely talented roster around him, is going to be able to make a deep playoff run with Russell Westbrook as their second or first best player on that roster. It's just going to be very hard for them to do, unless Russell Westbrook can get these consistency issues down and actually do what he needs to do every night in and night out, which would help a lot. Because I do think if Russell Westbrook is Russell Westbrook every single night, you can win playoff series with him. But if he's Russell Westbrook every other night, and Cameron Payne or just a Dennis Schroeder type guy every other night as well, then that's going to make it a lot harder when your second or best player is playing like trash in the playoff series when you're relying on him as much as you are. Now, my second reason in this video is going to be they gave up their entire future in the Russell Westbrook trade. As when they traded CP3 to the Oklahoma City Thunder for a Russell Westbrook, they gave up a lot of picks for that. And just even before we get into the picks, it's debatable that CP3 actually had a better season than Russell Westbrook this year. So, with that being said, the trade is already lost, but then you also give up 2 unprotected first rounders and your 2024 and 2026 swap rights. You see that as a lot of your future is now gone. So even if you want to rebuild through the draft, you can't, as 4 of their next 6 first rounders are controlled by the Oklahoma City Thunder. So, I mean, with that, there's almost no way for them to really build or get young talent into their team, or at least high quality young talent into their team, unless they want to make huge trades to trade up in the draft, but then they're going to have to give up picks again, and I mean, their future is just going to be in a shambles for a very long time. So if James Harden leaves or Russell Westbrook leaves, that is going to be detrimental to this team, because I think that best they're a first round exit team, and maybe even with the current roster they have, they could see a first round exit depending on how inconsistent Russell Westbrook is. So with his entire future being gone, this could probably hurt the Houston Rockets franchise a ton. So unless they're able to trade Westbrook, or maybe even trade James Harden and get their picks back and go into full rebuild mode, I think if they try to stick with this roster, they're going to age, they're going to retire, or they're just going to leave the team, and now the Rockets are going to be left in a terrible situation rebuilding wise. So yeah, I think this trade completely destroyed their future, and it's really going to hurt them in the long run. And now my third and final reason is going to be that they're in absolute cap hell. Like, there's not many teams with a worse salary cap situation than the Houston Rockets. As I mean, they have $123,032,000 tied into Russell Westbrook for the next 4 seasons, who is 31 years old. And then you also have $122 million tied into James Harden, who, believe it or not, is also 31 years old. And then to make things even worse, you have Eric Gordon, who is also 31. You have $68,714,184 tied into a 31-year-old Eric Gordon for the next 5 years. And then add PJ Tucker's $16 million and Covington's $36 million. This leaves the Rockets with very, very little money, and that's just the 5 active players. They have more than 5 players still on their salary book, so they have even less salary than I just mentioned. Which this now, with all that being combined, this leaves them with the 5th most active cap going into the 2021 offseason, and also they have the oldest average roster among every team in the NBA. So all this money is tied into an old, aging roster with very little room for improvement. And also, the probably worst thing, they have the 4th least cap space in the 2021 offseason. So not only do they not have draft picks to help their future out, they also don't have money to help them in the offseason. And the reason this cap is so terrible is because Russell Westbrook has little to no trade value after that playoff series. No one's going to take in that huge contract for someone that's not even going to help you even come close to winning a championship, especially like after they saw what just happened to him. So I mean, plus he's 31, so by the end of his contract, the dude's going to be 35 years old. So probably the last 2 or 3 years of that contract, he's not even going to be what he is. He's going to be a shell of himself. You can make the same argument with James Harden, but he plays a little bit differently, so James Harden probably won't be affected as much by his age, but obviously when you start turning around 33, 34, you're going to start falling off no matter who you are, unless you're LeBron James. You're going to start falling off no matter who you are. So, I mean, James Harden is probably going to also fall off. Eric Gordon already started to fall off this season. PJ Tucker, I think you have him for another 2 or 3 years, and he's pretty old, I'm pretty sure. I think he's around 34 already, so he's going to start falling off. Robert Covington, his contract honestly isn't that bad, but with how much money is in that contract, you combine it with everybody else's, it still contributes to the bad cap space. But to be honest, Covington's a good player, and that's around the contract that he should have, so it's really not that bad. I like the Robert Covington signing, actually, but it's just his contract's pretty big, so you combine that, and that's why they're in the cap hell they are. So for the next at least 4 seasons, or 3 seasons now, they have to pay Russell Westbrook and James Harden a lot of money, and Westbrook's about to start falling off a cliff here. James Harden's going to start steadily declining just because that's how age works, and Eric Gordon has already started declining. So this roster, if anything, isn't going to get better, but it's going to get worse while they're paying them tons and tons of money, which is just a recipe for disaster. So they're in cap hell. They have very little room for improvement. Their future is completely in shambles right now, and I doubt they're able to win a championship because of the consistency issues with this team. So, I mean, with all that being said, and all this being combined, this is why I think the Russell Westbrook trade was a terrible, terrible mistake for the Houston Rockets. But unfortunately, guys, that's me for this video. So comment below, do you agree with me? Do you think this was a mistake, or do you think they're going to be able to turn around? I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. If you did like the video, at any point, hit the like button and subscribe button. It means the absolute word to me. Hope you have a blessed day, have a blessed day. So you need to have a blessed day. See you in the next video. Goodbye, boo, blah.